Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the program. Today there's this news about this drought in Iraq that uncovered the ruins of an ancient palace. Now, it's really interesting to see how this happened. I think these ruins were written about before somewhere in some ancient texts, but it wasn't known really throughout the academic community because there's so little known about this group of people known as the Mitanni Empire. These people came in through the Caucasus Mountains, what speculated modern-day Armenia, although they were speaking a language that is now extinct, but was spoken in the area of the Taurus Mountains, which is west toward the southern part of Turkey. This is a pretty good map of the area that's being excavated here. So you can see here's Turkey, and these mountains here stretching far to the west are part of this mountain range known as the Taurus Mountains. Now, in this area, they were speaking this language, what the Hittites were speaking, the people of this Mitanni Empire here. This was the extent of their empire at the time. So it was a period of about 2 years that these people had hegemony over that mountain range and that area of modern northern Iraq. They made their capital at the headwaters of the Euphrates, and it even contained some parts of the Tigris River as well. There was a dam, reservoir that basically dried up, so that exposed the ruins above the water, obviously. And as soon as people noticed, it's described as a spontaneous archaeological dig. So what must have happened was someone saw it, and then they told another person, they just grabbed everything, and then they just got express clearance to investigate, because they were afraid that if the water levels were to rise again, it would damage even more stuff. And it's good that they did, because this yielded a lot of cuneiform tablets, which have immediately been shipped to Germany to be translated. So it'll be really interesting, because there'll be new evidence and new knowledge injected into, I guess, the collective of what we have now so far. And we're going to learn more about the Mitanni Empire, because the only thing that has been written about them it's been peripheral. It's kind of like the Scythians that I was talking about on Grammarica. They were just referred to by location in the general area. So these were the people who were occupying those lands. That's basically the extent of what we know. But they do know what language they were speaking, which is this extinct language called the Hurrian language. Yeah, and again, they were spoken by the mountain people of southern Turkey and what's now Armenia, near the Caucasus Mountains. So it's very interesting now that we are adding more to the demographic of Bronze Age Mesopotamia. And again, they know that it's the Bronze Age just based on the context and where it is and other ancient writings and stuff like that. So the palace would have originally stood about 65 feet from the river on an elevated terrace. So it must have been a really beautiful looking complex that had a lot of thought put into its architecture and stuff like that. There was a terrace wall of mud bricks that was later added to stabilize the building, and it added to, again, the imposing architecture. It's on an elevated terrace, so it would have been like looming, like a lighthouse almost, like just has full view of everything. The palace is known as the Commune. I think that's how you say it, the Kemune. And it was, again, a carefully designed building with mud brick walls, about 6.6 feet thick. Some are more than 2 meters high. Some rooms have plastered walls. It was painted red and blue, which they believe was a common feature at the time, although it's just not preserved. The only thing, it was only the remnant, so it had already lost its color, but it still retained the chemical properties that were left by red and blue wall painting. And so in this case, it was pretty preserved. So that in and of itself is really rare. They found, like I mentioned earlier, 10 clay tablets covered in cuneiform. They were sent to Germany for evaluation and translation. So that's going to be really interesting, just as a part two of this thread of a new archaeological discovery. So there was another project in 2016. They uncovered another Bronze Age city, which was more east toward the Tigris. They know for sure that it had a giant ancient urban area that had giant houses, palaces, a road network, a cemetery, and that's just what they, because it was occupied by ISIS, so ISIS is known to destroy stuff like that. So who knows what's left over. So there's this ongoing trend of more and more stuff being excavated and found. And if you just look at the map, it just seems like there's probably several of these palaces. I don't think these are the only ones. It seems like these people had a penchant for building stuff like this and spending a lot of time on architecture and spreading their culture. It's very interesting that that's how it played out. So these people from Turkey, essentially, speaking this extinct language, they existed here for 200 years. They had complete dominance here. Still not a lot was written about them, and just when you see it visualized, it's pretty amazing that there's so little on them, even though it was only about 1200 or 1300 BC or so, like 15th and 14th century BC. Let me know what you guys think about this. It's really interesting. It's a developing story, so yeah, if you know anything about Mesopotamia or you want to add anything. This, by the way, is a map from 7500 BC, when the area of the Fertile Crescent, Göbekli Tepe was relevant. All the surrounding areas were relevant, and you can see the extent of the populations that lived here. Anyway, I was just using this map as a reference for the Mitanni Empire. So anyway, let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you later.